right. In terms of the China, I mean, just think about how humiliating this is for the country. They flew a spy balloon clear across the continental United States with basically no pushback. Our people knew this balloon was coming, and yeah, they finally shot it after it had already gotten all the data that it needed and was already, off the East Coast. And it's like, okay, is that a strong country to just allow that to happen? And then now the fact that China is potentially setting up eavesdropping military outposts in Cuba, 90 miles from southern Florida Keys, that is a slap in the face to this country. They do not fear Biden. They realize he's weak, and so they're taking advantage of the weakness. And I think what the CCP understands is they understand the language of strength. They understand if a leader is saying what they mean and meaning what they say and is willing to back it up, they're not going to mess with that. But if they have an opportunity to take some action and to advance their agenda in ways that they don't envision any pushback for, they're going to take that. So I think his whole approach to China has been flawed. They're now really bending over backwards, it seems, to try to get back in Xi's good graces. Meanwhile, China continues to increase their military. They continue to have an inordinate impact on our lives here in America with how much our economy is now dependent on things made in China. You can't even get the ammunition we would need for a war unless you get stuff from China. You can't even refurbish our own nuclear arsenal unless you get stuff from China. And then what does Biden want to do? He wants to force everyone an electric vehicle. Well, guess what? Where do we get the materials to go into creating the batteries? From China. So it actually makes us more dependent on China. So I think there's a few things that we need to be doing. One, and we've taken action in Florida, combat CCP influence within our own country. We nixed the Confucius Institutes in the state of Florida. They put them in universities, colleges, and they're basically propaganda arms of the CCP. We said, not here. We signed legislation banning the purchase of land by CCP in Florida and related entities. They want farmland. They want land near military bases. Not here, not on our watch. But they have influence in higher education. They have influence throughout our domestic economy. They have influence in things like entertainment, which, the Soviet Union, they would have spies and stuff. They never, at the height of the Cold War, had this much influence over American society. So that's just one thing. The second thing is we need to be economically sovereign as a country. It's one thing to say, you deal with other countries, and of course we will have to do that. But to have so much critical issues in our country depend on China is not healthy. I don't think it's healthy for our industrial base, for our economy, for jobs, for all that. But certainly from a security perspective, it's a huge, huge problem. So we need to be doing more of that here in the United States. And then just finally, we have a limited capacity now to project power around the world. We had about 600 ships in Reagan's day. We got, about 280, 285 now. If you look at the Pacific Theater, I think that is the dominant theater for us in this decade and beyond. And, we need to be able to project power. We need to be able to work with Japan, Korea, India, Australia, other allies in the region to be able to check Chinese expansionism and China's ambitions. And it all goes back to a bet that a lot of policymakers made in this country 20, 25 years ago, that if you put China on a pedestal, gave them most favored nation status, put them in the World Trade Organization, that they would become more democratic as they were able to, dump products into other people's markets. And in reality, the opposite has happened. Xi is more ideological than any ruler since Mao Zedong, and he's been more authoritarian than any Chinese ruler since Mao Zedong, and he's used a lot of that industrial strength, a lot of that wealth to make China a near-peer competitor to the United States. And so that was a failed experiment, and now we're in a situation where we've got to dig ourselves out of that and get on better footing so that we're doing what we need to do to protect the interests of the American people. Yes?
Trump has continued to attack you, and he did again last